Well. We are live, and I'm always excited. And I always say that, but I'm really, really, really excited and very nervous all at once. So, you know how you say yes to these big, big, big life things, and then you go, why did I do that? I'm so scared. This episode is going to answer all that for you. When we feel like we have a devil and an angel on our shoulders, or excited but super fearful at the same time as at these beautiful life challenges or opportunities, this is probably going to shed some light on those scenarios for you. So here we go. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Tammy on so friggin' fast because there's so much to talk about. So, you know, when you do things that you don't want to be doing, and you're questioning why am I doing that when I want to be doing this? This is going to answer some of that stuff for you. Why we stay in relationships and jobs that maybe aren't a match for us, or why we act in ways that we regret. Or the big one for my voice clients is, why can't we dedicate ourselves to a voice practice? I've got my studio set up, I've got everything, I know what to do, but I just can't get my buns in the seat, or whatever it looks like for you. This may shed some light on that. So without further ado, I'm going to read you a little bit about Tammy. We're going to bring her on and chat all things about the beautiful minds that we all have. Get some insight onto that. Okay. So Tammy Sollenberger is a licensed mental health counselor, a certified IFS consultant, and a podcast producer and host. Super cool. She is the author of the book, The One Inside, 30 Days to Your Authentic Self. And she has a private practice, a son, a corgi, and a part who would always rather be on the beach reading a good book. Can you identify with that? I can. You can get to know Tammy and get a free meditation on her website, tammysollenberger.com. Without further ado, Tammy, come on in, girl.
Hey.
Hey, you.
I was shaking my head like this the whole time. I was like, yeah, the whole time. And then I was like, oh, she can't see me. But I was like, yeah.
I could, at the corner of my eye, you were beautiful. And you're like, yes. I'm like, okay, that really got my parts going. I'm like, Tammy, approve on this. Okay, let's do it. The one that needs the approval part. So this is so rad. And this is such a big conversation, but it's easier to understand than someone might think. So you probably get this question all the time, but if you had to give an elevator pitch on what IFS is, because that's what we're going to talk about today, an elevator pitch to someone, what would you say IFS is, and how would you get them curious and not overwhelmed? That's my big thing, is how do we get them curious and not overwhelmed by it?
Yeah, great. And of course, my dog has been quiet for the past hour and it's going to start barking. What is happening?
That's okay. I have kids, so you're going to hear that too. It's fine.
Yeah, my son's in the other room playing video games and like with his buddies. And I was like, okay, can we just like turn down all the things? So we'll see what happens. Yeah, so my elevator pitch would be exactly what you just said, right? There's a part of you that's excited and a part of you that's nervous. And then that can create some like confusion or frustration, or like, why did I agree to do something? And I'm really excited about it. Now I'm really nervous and I don't want to do it. And why did I decide to do that? And then it can create all, this disharmony or this sort of upset or this sort of tension. And so IFS says the reason why why that happens is because we have these different parts, and it's natural for us to be multiple, for part of me to say, hey, I think the Boston Marathon is today. So there's a part of me that's like, hey, I could run a marathon. That sounds good.
Yes.
I mean, I like running. I mean, I probably run like 12 miles an hour for like 2 miles. So 26 miles. I mean, that's fine. So there's a part of me that might agree to do something, or like agree to do a podcast, or agree to have a podcast host on, or decide to take voice lessons, or set up a voice studio, or whatever it is. There's sort of a part of us that will say yes to this thing. Great. I'm fully in. And then once that happens, when we have to get up early and practice, when we have to get up early and run the mile, when we have to do the thing, other parts of us are like, no, I didn't agree to that. I want to sleep. I want to rest. I want to relax. What is happening? And then there could be some anger. There could be some frustration. There's probably some guilt. There's probably shame. I am bad. What's wrong with me? Why do I suck? So, and then we'll hear that. So either we hear that in our head, we'll feel it in our body in some way. We might feel the emotions, but we're going to experience all of that in some way. And so we just call that parts, and we call that a family, because they're all in our families are like that, right? There's often a lot of grumbling and not harming in our families, right? So somebody says, yes, let's do something. Someone says, oh my gosh, that was a stupid idea. Then there's guilt, then there's shame, then there's anger, and there's all this stuff. And we call all of
Mhm.
that parts. And
Yeah.
so what IFS says is that's really normal and natural for us to have all these different parts.
Mhm.
And we can begin to be healed and heal when we first unblend from them. I start to recognize, oh, which I call the authentic self with a
Yep.
capital S. Dick, the founder, just calls it self with capital S.
Mm.
Sometimes people will call it true self or your soul or your spirit. But the idea is if my true essence, listen, oh, okay, I can kind of step back, give some safe space, separate a little bit. I can hear the part that says yes. I can hear the part that's like, what were you thinking? I can hear the part that feels all the guilt and the shame. And I can have some space between me and all this chatter and all this
Mhm.
emotion and all this pain or experience or whatever. And then there's some space between me and that. And then all that just kind of settles down a little bit. And then
Mhm.
okay, let me bring some curiosity to the part that said yes. What was going on for that part? What was that part trying to do for me? How was that part trying to help me? That part's protective. We call them protect. I'm just gonna keep talking. I'm just gonna
I
keep
I I want you to keep talking. Honestly, Tammy, if you talk for the entire hour and I don't ask another question, I am so happy. So just take it away.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's a part of me that's like, you are talking too much.
Yeah, there it
Stop
is.
rambling. I have a
No.
part that's like, stop rambling.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
hear that. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah. So that
I
part
will
just
assure
wants to,
you you're not rambling.
well, that part just wants to make sure that I'm being clear and that, because then I just get really excited and I want to tell you all the things. And
Yeah, do.
so it's like, okay, but I can slow down.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
here's the thing that I know. I have this part that talks really fast because in my family, if you didn't say what you wanted to say and say it loud and fast, no one was going to listen to you.
Yep.
Right. So there's sort
Mhm.
of this, okay, this part of me that's protective is like, you got to talk loud and fast. Otherwise, no one's going to hear you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have these. I'm going to take a deep breath.
Mhm.
We have these parts that are protective, right? The part that says talk loud and fast.
Mhm.
And then I have a part that needs to be protected, a part that's, for in this case, right, this part that's young, this part that feels like I'm feeling right now a little bit like, I have something to say and it feels a little bit scary to have something to say. It feels a little bit vulnerable. It feels a little bit like, will people listen? Is that okay to have something to say? So I'm just sort of
Mhm.
I'm just saying what's coming to my mind is sort of how
Right.
I'm kind of feeling into that. Like I'm
Yeah.
feeling into like, what does it feel like to be worried about not being able to say the thing? So hopefully this
Mhm.
is making sense. But
Totally.
um,
Totally.
so we call the protective parts, we label them managers and firefighters. And then the parts that need to be protected, we call them exiles because often we exile those parts away. Those are the parts that say I'm bad. They feel like I'm bad. They hold these beliefs. We call them burdens. They hold beliefs
Mm.
and burdens and feelings of shame and unworthiness and unlovability. And they're often fairly young. And then we have these parts that protect us from them, protect
Mhm.
us from being flooded by them and from their big
Mhm.
feelings. And we call those managers and firefighters. And then we have the self. And that's
Right.
the
Okay.
sort of the most important, not really the most
Yeah.
important thing, but really the most important thing that is that like when my authentic self can get to know my protectors and then I can find out who they're protecting, then I can go and heal who they're protecting so they don't
Mhm.
have to do their jobs and they don't have to do so much
Mhm. Mhm.
protecting. I think that's the right word.
Yeah. 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 It's so
Okay.
fascinating. It's so fascinating. Keep going if there's more because I got
No, that's it.
1,001
I'm like,
questions.
period.
Oh,
It's a
period.
run-on
Okay.
sentence.
I friggin' love you. I think you're fabulous. So don't worry about that. We're it's only love. Um, okay, so let me break down for folks. We come into this world with parts, multiple parts in our brain, right? Mind, however you want to look at that. So we're talking self, that authentic, true self, that soul that comes in with us, but then our minds are designed to have these parts. Can you break down in IFS why we come in multi-parted? What is it? Do we need that for survival? What is the point of the parts?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
what Dick would say is that, yeah, it is for survival, right? Just sort of it's
Yeah.
natural for us to be like,
Yeah.
as babies, we cry when we have certain needs, we smile because mom smiles back, just sort of a survival instincts of like, this is just,
Hmm.
kind of how we like our personality structures
Yeah.
built that way is just sort of a way of surviving and connecting.
Yeah.
Um, and the thing that's I think that's super interesting is I heard Dick say one time, I think this makes so much sense that because sometimes we feel things like if like the shame can feel like I'm gonna die, right? If
Yes.
I'm not like if I'm not loved, if I don't feel loved, I'm gonna die. Like it feels that intense.
Hmm.
And then we can get mad and frustrated. Like, why am I feeling this as intensely as that?
Hmm.
That's ridiculous, right?
Hmm.
Like if my partner doesn't love me, if I don't feel connected to him, it sometimes feels like I'm gonna die.
Hmm.
And then I have other parts that are like, could you be more dramatic? Like, get a grip.
I know.
Come on, you're not gonna die. Get a grip.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, if my partner not connecting to me, even if that means he doesn't text me or he doesn't call me or we're supposed to FaceTime and that doesn't happen, like something simple,
Yeah.
if that touches on this little exile that believes she's unlovable and
Hmm.
she's unloved,
Hmm.
well, when you're little, if you're a baby or you're 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, maybe up to 10, and you're not loved, you could die.
You could die. Yes, it's
You could
real.
die because
Yep.
back in the day, they're just gonna leave you on the side of the road,
Yeah.
right? Like, if we're talking, like, horse, buggies, and carriage,
Yeah.
and you're a pain in the butt,
Yeah.
and you're crying all the time, we're just gonna leave you on the side of the road. This
Yeah.
is I'm being flippant about it, but there is some truth to this idea,
Hmm.
just survival, like, I need and we all do it, right? For
Hmm.
me, I think I need to be nice and smiley and not I need to be good. I need to
Hmm.
be a good girl. I need to be a certain way.
Hmm.
And then I'm going to get loved and then I'm going to get connection and then I'm going to live. I mean, that's life
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
right? Like I get my parents pay attention to me and they
Hmm.
feed me and they take care of me and then I'm able to live.
Hmm.
And so it really is that dramatic, right? So it
Yeah.
might not be that for you. Like, it might not be those words, it might not be those feelings,
Hmm.
but there's something, I think for everyone listening, there's
Yeah.
something like that for them that like, and they might not be
Yeah.
aware of it, but and so they can think about it, kind of go from like right now, right? Like sort of what's the trigger? We call
Hmm.
it a trailhead. Like the trigger is my boyfriend doesn't call me or this thing that I expected to happen didn't happen.
Hmm.
And then I feel this hit of I'm not being loved in the way that I feel like I need to be
Yeah.
loved. Then I have this big emotional reaction. So the big emotional reaction doesn't really fit the current
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. It's overloaded.
Doesn't really make
Yeah.
sense. Right. So then that is a great trailhead. Like if my
Mm.
emotional reaction does not match the content of my like almost 50-year-old love life,
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right. Like my 50-year-old me love life, this feeling like I'm going to die, this doesn't make any
No.
sense. Okay. So there's some parts here.
Oh, so
So
cool.
I want to be curious about this like hit. What does that feel like? What's happening in my body? What's happening? Because then I'm going to go eat all the cookies, or then I'm going to be like, well, I'm breaking up with him then.
Mm.
Right. Like there's going to be some protective energy, right?
Right.
This protection that says, eat all the cookies, just go hang out with your girlfriends and just break up with him because who cares?
Right.
Okay. So those are how my protectors are trying to help me with this feeling
Totally.
of this little girl who feels like if she's not loved, she's going to die. Does that make
It's
sense?
so good. It's so good. It's beyond good.
Okay.
Yes, because we can think that those are the voice of logic or reason. We'll just break up with them. Like or you'll feel better with some cookies, whatever. It's I guess I am an overeater and that's my problem. And it's those are distractions. Those are lovely distractions because you don't have to feel that this really yucky feeling of being so small and so unlovable that you feel. All right. So it's
Yeah.
it's everything in terms of okay, I want to break down a couple things because what we're trying to do with this work is be, if I understand correctly, and I've read No Bad Parts and I've read a lot of things, is self-led as much as we can and unblend with the parts. We can think we are the parts, the thought that said, oh, eat those cookies, or oh, just break up with him. We can think we are those thoughts, those parts. But what I'm understanding is that the self part, and you'll tell me, is
Yep.
me, and
Yep.
those other parts are me too, but one is more me? Is that what we're talking
Ye
about?
Well, um,
This is the tricky part.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're all me,
Yeah.
but the parts I'm gonna
Yeah.
say, I'm sure this is not IFSC at all, but the parts are like little mini
Oh, I
me's
love it.
that have burdens,
Yes.
right? So there's me, the self. I don't have any burdens.
Yep.
And the characteristics of self are calm, clear, connected, curious, courageous, a couple other ones. So that's me,
Yeah.
right? There's no burdens.
Yeah.
And then the little mini me's all have burdens. They all have beliefs. They don't all, because to make things more complicated, we do have parts that aren't burdened, but let's just forget that for a second
Yep.
because that's complicated.
Yep.
But sort of the parts that carry these burdens, so these little mini me's have these little burdens that are like, I'm unlovable. And sort of, so that there's the exile, I'm unlovable. And then there's the one that's like, oh, well, then I'm gonna eat all the cookies. And then
Mhm.
there's the one that's like, oh, well, actually, we're just gonna logic and da 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 da. Well, that's another part.
Mhm.
Or whatever the parts are, right? The parts that are
Mhm.
like, so they're all me, but the essence of me, the real me, the true me is this authentic self. And
Love it.
I tell people, think about the experience you have of like, if you ever hiked a mountain, being on the top of a mountain, you've done this
Mm.
and you have this like this like moment
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
a moment of flow or
Yeah.
just this sense of like being
Wow.
like
Yeah.
like wow, or like the best you or the true you, or just really feel like
Yeah.
embodied you.
Mhm.
That's you, right? That's who you're meant to be.
Right.
That's who you are.
Yeah.
And so the idea is, yes, to be self-led, but it doesn't mean that self is good and parts are bad, because
Exactly.
what it can feel like,
That's a
right? Like
big
I need to be
one.
self-led all the time, right?
Mhm.
And the idea for No Bad Parts, which is Dick's latest book,
Yeah.
is that all parts, the protection part, the parts that say you fail because you did not, practice singing in your voice lessons today, or
Mhm.
that you got up on stage and you bombed it, or when you
Yeah.
made a mistake and they call you a big fat failure, or the parts that eat all the cookies or drink all the drinks or break up with a boyfriend because he doesn't text you back or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
All of those things, all of those parts are, there's no bad parts,
Yeah.
meaning they all have positive intentions.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean that my parts don't hurt people
Yeah.
or that they don't do destructive things to me and to other people.
Mhm.
It just me, and then I'm like, well, there's no bad parts. So it's not that, right?
Mhm.
It's not that like there's no bad parts, so I can just punch everybody in the face and be like, well,
Right.
there's no bad parts. Well, the part that punches people in the face, which are none, but they're parts that want to.
Yeah.
But I'm such a good girl, I wouldn't have never done that. But part of me is like, I wish I would
Yep.
have done that at some point in my life. But anyways, but that part that wants to punch people in the face,
We all
which are
have
none,
those.
but if there was one, that part, like, that would be a bad thing, yes.
Yes.
But the part has good intention.
Right.
So if I could get to know this part that wants to punch people in the face,
Mhm.
then I can find out what is that part's intention for me.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that like I can go around acting like a total a-hole and
Mhm.
that's fine because there's no bad part. That's not what it means. It
Mhm.
means that if I act like an a-hole, then I need to get to know that part and find out its good intention for me because
Mhm.
it has some sort of positive intention for me.
Yeah.
We all have parts we don't like,
Yes.
whether they're that destructive, whether they're violent, whether they use substances, whether they, are just dramatic like mine. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so dramatic.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, we all have them. And so we want to, in our curiosity, find the parts that say yes to everything and then
Yeah.
get the parts that get mad about that.
Yeah.
Like, so we want to just bring some curiosity to that. So the parts that we don't like and bring some curiosity because they're protecting us in some way.
Oh, I love this. I beyond love this. It makes so much sense to me how we, it feels like we're not 100% on board with any decision that we make. It's like, what in the hell is wrong with me? Why can't I get on board with myself? So I want to break down a little bit of when we try to change patterns, like introduce a singing practice or speak up and say the things we want to say. There's a lot of resistance there, and I imagine now that I look at it through this lens, it's the parts going, hey, no, we want to stay familiar and because that's safe. So no, 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 no. And
Yeah.
those parts can be kind of mean or
Yeah.
make you feel really anxious and overwhelmed and feel really bad about making those big decisions and trying to change your life. So let's take it with the singing practice or eating
Yeah.
right, right? Just those simple decisions like that. The blowback. How can we understand that it is a part and that how do we encourage that part to get on board with these changes? What would you say?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, two things. One, there are two parts.
Mhm.
One that wants the part to get on board.
Ooh, nice.
I want to make these changes and you need to get on board.
Yep.
Well, that's a part. I know you think it's self and it sounds like self kind of, but it's not self. It
Yeah.
has an agenda
Yep.
and so that's a part.
Mhm.
So we call these polarized parts, right? One that wants to establish a singing practice,
Yep.
one that wants to run every day. And then we have a polarized part on the other side, right? Devil and angel.
Yep.
Well, let's not do that because that's
Yeah.
sort of good and bad. But sort of black and white or whatever.
Yep.
And then we have the one that says, no, thank you. I don't want to do that.
Yep.
And so then I imagine a space, right? Here's this part, and then there's me.
Mhm.
And then, so I want to turn to this one with some curiosity.
Ooh.
And so we ask this question, how am I feeling towards this one? How do I feel towards the part of me that wants to establish a practice, wants to establish a habit in some way?
Mhm.
How do I feel towards it? That's going to help me remember that it's a part.
Mhm.
There's space between me and that part. It's going to help me unblend so that there's me and the part.
Mhm.
And then I can listen to it. Why does it want me to do a practice? Why does it think it's good for me?
Ooh.
How is it trying to help me? What is it afraid would happen if it didn't do that?
Mhm.
If it didn't say, hey, establish a practice, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to get to know that part. So we don't just get to, right. So I'm going to do
That's
that, right? I'm
big.
turn to that one. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to
Yeah.
turn to this one. Am I feeling curious towards this one? There's probably going to be some parts that don't like it. So I'm going to have to ask them for space, right? So then if I can feel curious towards this one, have the same conversation.
Yeah.
What is it afraid would happen if it told me, no, 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 stop, 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 or whatever, you're an idiot, whatever it's telling me,
Mhm.
what is it afraid would happen if it didn't tell me that? How is it trying to help me? What's its good intention?
Mm.
So I'm going to kind of interview these parts. But the idea is, if we can remember in my rambling, that these are protective parts.
Yes.
So once I kind of get to know them and kind of hear a little bit about their story and their good intention, then I can say, all right, guys, what are you trying to protect me from? Or who are you trying to protect me from? Or who are you helping? Because I'm really curious the exile kind of behind them, or sort of we say in IFS world that we have this, sort of, if you imagine a house, sort
Mhm.
of these are the parts that are like hanging out in the living room and the kitchen and they're like running my life. But we've got some parts in the basement. So who's in the basement
Ooh.
that they are trying to protect? Right. So who are they trying like, so you could ask, and this can get a little bit redundant, but you could say, what are you afraid would happen if you both didn't do this? Well,
Mm.
then, then you wouldn't practice, then you wouldn't do
Yeah.
anything. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then what would happen if I didn't practice and do anything?
Right.
Well, then you wouldn't be anybody. Okay. Well, what would happen if I'm not anybody? Well, then you'd be normal and boring. Okay. Well, what would happen if I'm normal and boring?
Ooh.
Well, then you would feel shame. Okay. Well, what would happen if I feel shame? Then you would really believe you're bad because you are bad. Like sort of, okay, well then what would happen
Wow.
if I'm bad? That would be it. That's the worst thing. You'd be bad. Or you die, right? They will say, well,
Yeah.
you'll die. But the
Yeah.
worst thing, because it could be death. That could be the worst thing.
Yeah.
Or is the worst thing shame? Or is the worst thing that I'm unlovable, right? If I don't do
Mm.
this thing, what would happen? What would happen? Then
Mhm.
you wouldn't be lovable. Then you wouldn't be connected.
Oh my
Then
gosh.
people wouldn't notice you. People wouldn't listen to you. And then what would happen if people didn't listen to you? That might be the worst thing.
Wow.
That might be the worst thing. And
Yep.
then that's going to give me a clue. That's going to give me and my authentic self. I'm talking to these parts. That gives me a clue of who they're protecting. Okay. So I'm curious if you're protecting a part of me who really believes she's not lovable, who really believes she's got nothing to say,
Wow, 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 wow.
who really believes that no one listens to her. And so can you, and then you can ask, can you introduce me to that part? Can you show me that part? Or is there a memory connected to that part? Because often then there's a memory.
Mhm.
And this is where IFS can get a little bit weird. So I invite people to have their skeptic parts, because this can get a little bit weird, but a memory will often pop up, right?
Mhm.
I remember at 5 when, I went to school and this happened, or
Mhm.
I remember at 3 when, my mom dropped me off at my dad's house and I didn't see her for a week, or
Mm.
whatever that is. So there often is a memory,
Mhm.
like a little girl or little boy memory
Yep.
tied to this belief. There's
Mhm.
often memories tied to that.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. So the parts are actually on your team. They're just trying to
Totally.
protect the basement dwellers, if you will, from
Yes, the basement dwellers.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This explains so much
Yeah.
because there's often times where I'll just use my own life as an example. I wanna do all these wonderful things for myself. I wanna do regular yoga and eating better, and it comes from a real compassionate, calm place, and then something weird takes over that practice, and it becomes really, like, perfection or rigid or yucky, and then I go,
Yes.
"Fuck it. I'm out. This
Yes.
sucks."
Yes.
This
Yeah.
is stuckness, but what we see now through this lens is the the parts are just not in alignment with this choice, or they're trying to take the reins on the choice that came from self. Am I getting that right, Tammy?
Totally, it could
Okay.
be. Like, it
Yeah.
totally could be.
Yeah.
So the thing is, you wanna ask your system, because
Mm.
I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
So you wanna ask your system, because what that sounds like to me
Yeah.
is, like, that you decided to do a yoga practice that came from a self place,
Yeah.
but then this
Yes, ma'am.
perfection parts came in, because they and so I would say, "Okay, so let's get to know the perfection." So
Yeah.
this one is a little bit different, right? If you
Yeah.
came to me with this, I'd say, "Okay, what I'm here,
Yeah.
let's get to know the perfection, and then
Mm.
get to know the other one you said, right? Sort of the one that was mad, that
Like,
was, like,
"This
gonna
is
give up or
gross.
something."
I wanted to do this because it was fun, and now it's gross, so I'm out." Yeah, that one.
Yeah, yeah, right. So I would say, okay, so let's get to know the perfection, and let's get to know that I'm out. Because it wasn't the one that said let's do it.
No, no.
That felt like it came from a self-led place.
Yep.
Because you can hear the language
Mhm.
and you can hear the energy,
Mhm.
right? So this is a different scenario
Mhm.
versus my, like, running a marathon, or even
Yeah.
the setting up a voice practice.
Yeah.
So I'd get to know the perfection, because the perfection is saying, it probably says, so I would say, okay, what does the perfection say to you? That's another way of unblending. What does the perfection
Ooh.
say to you about you?
Oh, that's so good. So if I had to answer that, I would say, well, you have to stick to it. Like, it's gotta be every day, X number of minutes. So if you're gonna do this, we gotta go all in because you always bail. So if you're doing this, we gotta do this.
Yeah, good. Okay. So how are you? Can we play with this for a second?
Oh,
Is this
I'm
okay?
into it.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Okay. So how do you feel towards that part of you that tells you that?
Embarrassed and disgusted and like like I wanna punch it in the face. But I also,
Yeah.
like, I agree with it too. It's like, okay, yeah, I don't stick
Totally.
to stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what we'll have, this is part of the family, right? We
Yeah.
have parts that are aligned with it, right?
Ooh.
Sort of parts that are on its team, the
Mhm.
other parts that hate it. And so I'm going to ask you, if you could just imagine asking all the parts, either the parts that are aligned with it, parts that don't like it, see if they'll just give you some space. They can
Okay.
just kind of sit next to you, or just come
Mhm.
go into a waiting room, just give you a little bit of space, just so you could be with this part that's
Ooh,
has a little bit of perfectionism.
that was so good. It just calms. It's like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
okay, quiet. Okay."
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So good.
Beautiful. All right. Yeah. So focus back on that perfectionistic part and check
Mm.
and see how you're feeling towards it now.
There must be another part in there because 'cause I'm scared of her. I really am.
Okay,
She always has
good.
something to say to me. She's always, always, always yipping about something. Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right. So
Yeah.
what is the scared one? Turn towards the scared one. What does the scared
Mhm.
one want to say?
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So see if you could let the scared one know that you're going to talk to the
Okay.
perfectionistic one.
Okay.
She doesn't have to.
Oh, this shit is good. Tammy, I was not ready for this. I'm like, maintain composure. She's on me now. She's like, maintain the composure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're doing good. You're
Oh.
doing good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Got it. Perfection. Keeping me safe, probably. Like, if you're perfect, then you can be, there's no reason people won't love you.
Yeah.
Right?
So ask her if that's right. Because my guess is that just came in from a thinking part.
Oh,
So
you're good.
ask
Yeah. You're so
Ask the
good.
perfection ask the perfectionistic one, "Is that right? Is that her belief?"
No. She said
Okay.
she's saying to me that if we're perfect, people will just leave us alone. They won't pick at us.
Good. Okay, good. Yeah, how
Mm.
are you feeling towards her now as she tells you that?
I don't dislike her as much now. I
Okay.
understand it. It's like, okay, if we're perfect, people leave us alone.
Yeah, good. How open is your heart towards her?
Really very open. Like
Yeah,
it's very I just noticed a
good. Yeah.
whoa, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
so let her
whoa.
feel that from you. Let her just feel that openness
Mhm.
and just see how she responds to it.
Wow. I could that's all I could say is wow. It just feel I'm scared I've been so scared of her and like I let her lead and then I'm like, too far, get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah, it's
feel
good.
great. I feel compassion.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So we could keep going,
Mhm.
but I wanna check
Cool.
with you and see how that feels.
That feels really, necessary in my life right now that I talked to that
Okay.
part. Yeah.
Alright. Alright. Can we keep going then?
Yeah. Frick yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Alright.
yeah.
Alright. Alright. So as you look at her, how do you see anything? Is there any identifying factors, color, shapes, images of this
Mm.
part of you?
Hmm. Hmm. I think I'm trying to make something fit there. I feel like, okay, you have to have a really good answer here. Um,
Yeah, so thank that part
yeah,
who's trying to help you.
yeah,
See if it'll just give you space.
yeah,
It's totally okay if you don't get an image. You
yeah.
can just sort of see how you experience her. It might just be with words or it might just be a felt
Do you know
sense.
what? It's kind of like a Marilyn Monroe piece where she's like, she's gotta be perfect, but she's still sad on the inside. Like, she doesn't wanna be doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Good,
yeah.
good. So just see what she wants you to know about her. She's already told you a lot. What else does she want you to know?
Mm. Yeah, she's really, perfect gets you left alone like, you won't get picked on and you won't be bothered. You can just be alone and do your own thing and be happy and joyful and whatever you're doing. But, like, I write music and stuff, so you can just write music and sing, and you'll be left alone and
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So ask her, where did she first get this belief about being perfect equals being left alone?
Hmm. I wanna say school. Like, if I
Okay,
got
ask
good
her.
grades.
See if you Yeah, so ask her.
Mhm. Hi.
See if your thinking part, who I totally get, because 'cause you're like, "I'm actually working right now. This isn't therapy. I'm trying to do this podcast." So I get the part that's sort of hovering
Yeah,
that's
it's
like,
just yeah, hovering is a
I
really
get
good
it.
word. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. She's welcome. She is
Mhm.
welcome just to have her kind of just hover a little bit of hovering space.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to go as far we go as far as you want.
Yeah. Okay, so and now I'm blanking on what your question was, Tammy, because I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
"Shit, she's
fine. Yeah.
hovering. She's hovering."
It's fine. Yeah, so ask the perfection,
Yeah.
where did she learn this idea that perfect equals people will leave me alone?
Hmm. I'm seeing that perfect equaled praise, which then got you left alone. Like, "Good job.
Good, okay.
See you later."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, good, okay, okay.
It feels very little now. I feel very
Yeah,
exposed and little in the best way, not anything against you. Feel very
yeah,
tiny, little, like, "Oh
yeah,
shit, I'm being found out right now."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Does that feel like it's coming from her or somebody else?
I think there's someone very little behind her in the
Okay,
basement.
okay.
If in the basement, she's at the door of the
Basement
basement and there's
dweller.
someone like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, no, we're not supposed to know this."
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
It's really good,
This shit is
really good.
fascinating. I have to tell you that in this work, when I've done it on my own, I've seen my voice shift and my handwriting shift depending on who I'm
Yeah,
talking to. And I feel right now
yeah,
that my voice wants to be very small. And I'm like, "Wait, you're
yeah.
on a podcast. You can't have that voice." That's
Yeah.
very interesting to me. This is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this stuff. Like, it's getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, so see, let this part just feel your hand.
Yeah.
So you had your hand here, sort
Mhm.
of as sort of your voice is
Yeah.
getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
So see if it can just feel your hand.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to come up out of that basement right now, but see if it can feel your hand. This voice, this part that has this little voice.
Yeah.
See if it can just feel you, feel your presence, feel your open-heartedness.
Yeah. Wow. This is a lot of it's a lot of buzzing, but good.
Yeah. Okay.
Shit, this is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That part doesn't wanna be seen and heard at all right now, but oh, this is I knew this would be magic today, Tammy. I just have to say that. No pressure. I knew this would be magic today. This is something I needed to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Cool.
Good. So see if just do this one little thing if it feels okay.
Yeah.
See if the perfection that says has learned this rule and make sure that you keep up with the rule.
Mhm.
See if you just let her know that you're gonna come back and hang out with her, and then let this little voice know that you're also not gonna you're gonna come back.
Okay.
Like, this is just the beginning, and you're gonna come back to both of them.
And here's the because I have this other part. Do you say this out loud or can you say it in your head or how does this practice either? Okay.
Either, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are completely they're not completely silent, but,
Mhm.
like so I can say, "Hey, say this to the part," and then you can just say it to the part, kind of like people sometimes will have eyes closed and will just say it to the part,
Mhm.
and then they'll just say kind of like, "Okay," once they've said it.
Mhm. Oh, wow. It's the craziest feeling inside. It's buzzing. It's like aliveness, but not overwhelmed, anxious like usual. It's a
Yeah,
different but
good.
calm. So,
Yeah,
yes, I said that to the parts and they seem okay with that. There's no
okay, yeah.
except I wanna really cover up right now. I'm like,
Interesting.
"Whoa, okay, whoa, I'm exposed, shit." But
Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay. It feels okay at the same time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So just see if the part that's feeling exposed and wanting to cover up, just see if it can feel you,
Mhm.
maybe feel how old you are.
Mhm.
And just feel that it's not alone.
Mhm. That's one thing I say a lot in this work, like, I'm almost 40. "Hey, guys, I'm almost 40. We're not
Yeah,
2 or 5 or 7 anymore, even though my voice
yeah,
wants to be 5."
yeah. Mhm.
This is fascinating.
Yeah,
It feels
yeah,
okay at the same time as it feels uncomfortable. Is that what you hear a lot from your clients and yourself? Like, it feels
totally. Yes.
if the like,
Yeah,
there's this underlying it's cool. Like,
yeah.
even though it feels
One of the things I
yeah.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, even though it feels kinda like, "Holy shit." Underneath, it's like,
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think what it feels like to me is this idea of being with, right? So, like, in regular talk therapy,
Mm.
you go to therapy and you're just sorta gonna complain about I mean that in the nicest way, but
Yep.
let's say if I went to
Yep.
therapy, I would just
Yep.
be like, "Oh, blah, 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 blah." So the idea which is fine and can be somewhat helpful.
Mhm.
Um, it can be helpful.
Mhm.
But so the idea of IFS and sort of how we're doing therapy is the idea that I'm gonna be with these parts of me in a way that they've never had anybody with them before. They haven't had me with them, right? The protectors have been the only ones with the ones that need to be protected,
Mhm.
right? So those little exiles have only had these guys with them. They haven't had me with them. And
Wow.
so me being with the protectors and the ones that need to be protecting, just me being with them. That's what happened just right now for
Yeah.
you. You're with the protector, the perfectionist,
Yeah.
and you're with a touch with this one that with the little voice,
Mhm.
and even the one that needs to be covered up. Just you being with them,
Mm.
just yeah, it's intense, but it's just it's almost you can't even describe it, right? It's
It's
just this feeling that
it's a
yeah, it's magical.
overwhelming compassion, like, it's just, like, love I don't know if it's love, I don't know, it's a new
Yeah.
unified maybe? Maybe I'm
Yeah.
overthinking it, but it just feels a little less
Okay.
scattered and a little bit more centered.
Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to find a word to describe it,
Yeah.
right? And I think centered is a good word. Centered is a C word. I
Mhm.
think I think centered is probably a
Mhm.
a characteristics of self. But that is, right? I feel so it's not an integration, right? This
Mhm.
isn't like, if you dealt with multiple personalities in the 70s and 80s, we're
Mhm.
integrating. That's not what we're doing
No.
here. We're being with, we're healing, we're unburdening these
Mhm.
burdens. This isn't about like getting rid of the parts and having them integrate into self. Like that's not what this is.
Right.
This is about self being with all these parts and healing
Yeah.
them.
Wow, wow, wow. So here's a question that comes up a lot for folks is like, um, how do we know a choice is coming from self versus like that perfectionist part? It seems like it's right. Like we're going to start a yoga practice and it's going to look like this. And is it a feeling that we get in the body where when we come from self, it feels maybe nicer in there? How do you know?
Yeah.
How do you know?
So this is a great question,
Yeah.
right? So how do I know kind of it's from self or from a part?
Yeah.
So one is the C qualities, right? Like how much calm,
Oh,
clarity, connected, curious, compassion, how much of that am I feeling? One is the energy. Like when you said, right, I want to start this yoga practice that feels calm and da 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 da. But then I have this perfectionist part. I could just feel the energy around it.
yeah.
So not just the words, but the energy.
Mhm.
Other thing is I was a bank teller, like, at one point in my life, which
Oh
I
my
actually
gosh.
loved that job,
Yeah.
and when you go to bank teller school, because you go to bank teller school,
Wow.
you feel what real money feels like, right? You practice with real money. So
Yeah.
I know what real money feels
Yeah.
like. So if you were to give me fake money, I'm gonna know what fake money feels like because I know what real money feels like first.
Wow. Yep.
So it's the same kind of idea that, like, when I know what it feels like to be in self, I can remember those moments. I can remember those times, whether it's during yoga or
Mhm.
meditation or the hike or the sunrise or the sunset or the feeling of being in love and sort of what that feels like.
Yeah.
Those could be self moments. They don't have they might not be, but
Yeah.
they could just be good moments. But
Yeah.
if I can really feel like that, and I can even feel what you just felt just by unblending,
Yeah.
I can feel that openness, I can feel that calmness,
Yeah.
the softening.
Yeah.
I feel when I started learning about this, I could feel what my face felt like. Like I
Wow.
could feel my face soften. Like I just had this
Wow.
feeling in my face and I can't even describe it. And so it's like that's almost like my first cue. Like I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like I can feel my face soften.
Oh my god. So if I'm understanding this work properly, and I always preface that because I have a perfectionist part. Um, if I'm
Yeah.
understanding the work correctly, these parts think they're doing you a service, but they actually don't wanna be doing a lot of the things they're doing. There's other things they'd
That's good.
rather be doing, correct?
Yeah,
So
that's great.
can you walk me through that, how that
Yeah.
works with the work? Yeah.
Perfect, yeah. Yeah, so I'll use your perfectionistic part, if
Mhm.
that's okay.
Perfect.
So the idea is protectors have a job,
Mhm.
and their job is to protect.
Mhm.
That's their job.
Mhm.
And so they'll do their job by, like, eating cookies. That's my part's job. The part
Mm.
that says, "Well, just break up with him, blah, blah, blah." That's its job, is to
Mhm.
tell me to do that, or to
Mhm.
eat the cookies, or to
Mhm.
go online and go shopping,
Mhm.
or to drink the alcohol, or to be perfect,
Mhm.
or to be incredibly organized, or to work all the time,
Right.
or to criticize. Like it doesn't have to be sort of a bad thing, or
Oh,
it could be running, right? We'll have to run 5 miles. Like
yeah.
that could be a part, probably is a part.
Mhm.
But so whatever that is, that's a job.
Mm.
And so when I get to know that part, and when the idea is the protective parts, they have the job to protect the exiles. So
Mm.
when I kind of go through my protectors, get to know so you're going to get to know your perfectionist part, and then it's going to introduce you to that sweet little exile.
Got it.
And then I heal the exile, which we're not talking a lot about right now, but
Mhm.
if I unburden self unburdens the exile, then the exile's free, unburdened. Then this little part's like,
Ah. What do you want me to do?
I don't have a job anymore, right? So this can also be a protector fear, right? If I wasn't perfectionist, there's a lot of feel around perfectionism
Yeah.
probably. And this is probably not your only part that's perfectionistic, by the way. You
Mm.
probably have lots of parts that have that job, right? So I thought the first time I worked with my part that ate a lot,
Yeah.
I was like, great, I'm going to lose 20 pounds.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. I'm never going to have a problem with overeating or eating
Yeah.
cookies
Yeah.
again in my life. That's not true
Wow.
because what happens is our protectors pick up that job, right? So say my 3-year-old picked up a job
Mhm.
of eating to soothe me
Mhm.
because 3-year-olds don't have, or perfectionist is another good one, right? I'll be really perfect in my play or
Mhm.
how I treat my toys because that's something I can control. That's a
Mhm.
resource I have.
Mhm.
Perfectionism is a resource I have. Food is a resource I have. Being organized, not being messy, being a good girl. These are all resources we have. Being
Mhm.
really good at school as kids. And so if one of my parts has that job
Mhm.
and that helps calm my system down and calm my exiles down and then I feel loved, then other parts going to be like, "Hey, I'm going to do that
Oh
too."
my god.
Because then when somebody at school is mean to me, I know how to do that, right? I'm going to go steal some cookies from the, probably not because I'm a good girl,
Yeah.
but I'm going to get some cookies or something, right? Or I'm going to be really smiley, or I'm going to, so it's not going to
Yeah.
just show up at home.
Wow.
It's going to show up at school. It's going to show up with my
Yeah.
friends. It's going to show up in my relationships. It's going to show up in my schoolwork.
Mhm.
Like it's going to show up all over the place.
Mm.
So this doesn't totally answer your question, but yes, they have jobs.
Yeah.
And so the idea then is you could say, okay, so if I get to know this specific part who has this belief, and then I unburden the exile that's attached to it, then I can say, what would you rather do? Like if you
Mm.
didn't have to do this job,
Mhm.
what would you rather do? And you might have to ask that question even before it lets you get to the exile because it really believes its job is life or
Has
death.
to
I
do it.
have to do this job. It is life or death that I do
Wow,
this job.
wow, wow, wow.
I totally get that. I totally get that that's what you think and that's what it feels like. But just play with me for a second.
Right.
If you didn't have to do that, if I could help you and I could help her
Mhm.
and you didn't have to do that job, what would you rather do?
Wow.
And they will often have an answer.
Oh
It
my
will be,
god.
I'd rather play. It's usually like play or skate or swing or color or yeah, it's usually some sweet little kid thing
Oh my
because
god. They
they're
are
little
little.
kids, right? Like they're little. Again, this is a little
Wow.
bit wacky, so we welcome all the skeptical parts, but it's almost like these parentified children running our lives.
Right.
I mean, that's what it
That's
is,
what
right?
it
It's
is.
sort of like these parentified kids that are like, I got to be a big girl and I have to pretend to be big and,
Wow.
and act these ways to like manage your life, but they're just little and they often don't know they're little. So we ask them, how old are you? How old do you think I am?
Wow, 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 wow. That's one of the things that really struck me in Dick's book for sure is like, be sure to tell the part how old you are because they are not aware usually that you are and you might have children of your own. Like they don't, there's a lack of trust there, I think is what he would say in that work that they don't know
Yeah.
you, you let them down million years ago and so they took over and yeah,
Yeah.
wow. Is there a backlash to changing the system? Okay, talk to me about that. What can we
Yeah.
expect when we heal in exile? Do other protectors come out like claws out, or what are we expecting?
Well, so yes, and what Dick says is that's why we ask for permission, right? That's why we're going to ask like, just are there any parts concerned about getting to know this perfectionistic part? Are there any parts? So
Mm,
we welcome, right? We ask for space, but we can say you watch. We ask for
mhm,
space, but you can jump back in. So we
mhm,
ask for a lot of permission,
mhm.
so we don't just go straight to the exile and then heal this. Which parts won't let you do that
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah, yeah,
but there's often going to be a part that jumps in.
yeah.
um, but when we shift the system, like, so yeah, because it's sort of like, here's the family. And like in family systems therapy, we used to say, and I'm sure they still say this in family systems therapy, is that families have a dance, right? Like,
Mhm.
dad comes home and mom's like, hi, honey, welcome home, sort of. And then the kids are good and whatever. Sort of, this is the
Yeah,
dance of family. Or like if mom is mad, I mean, this happens with my
yeah.
son, right? If I get mad or get cryy, get teary, then this is what he does. And this is what I do. And so
Right,
like,
right, right, right.
we have this little dance we do
Yeah.
in a family system. There's a dance. Same thing with parts, right? There's a
Wow.
dance, and this is kind of how our system has this dance. And so we change one of the members of the dance,
Mhm.
it is going to feel. We're gonna feel that. Like even though it looks like for you right now, it's like that feels really good.
Yeah.
If you were to do a little bit more work today, like if you were to maybe unburden that
Well, I
part
will
today,
be.
yeah, well, I
I will
totally believe
be.
that. But then you're gonna be super tired, and sometimes I'm like, "Take a nap and drink a lot of water." Like, it's
Oh,
just your whole
wow.
system is really tired,
Yeah.
and then it's gonna be a little wonky, like, "Wait, we've been operating this way for a really long time." Like,
Mhm.
we do something, we do it perfect. Otherwise, we don't do it. So, or people are going to pay attention to us, or they're not going to leave us alone. So,
Mhm.
so that can still create a little bit of like, what does that feel like to live a little bit differently?
Wow.
And so your parts, so then you just want to keep like saying to your parts, I'm here and I want to keep talking about it. And like, we're all in this together and I'm here, right? That's the
Oh,
thing I say to my parts all the time. I'm right
yeah.
here. I'm
Wow.
right here. Right? If I'm right here, then we're going to be okay. I'm right here.
This is why I love this work so much is that there's so much you can do on your own. Like,
Yeah.
I understand that you'll need some maybe support from an actual trained IFS counselor, and there's work to do at home, and you know what to like, talking to yourself, yes, and it might seem the skeptic might be like, "What? I'm talking to
Yeah.
myself." Yeah, actually, you
Yeah.
are, and
Yeah.
but it's
But you're talking to yourself anyways.
right.
You are talking to yourself anyways.
No, you don't need a cookie, but I really want one. No, you don't need a cookie.
I
Yeah,
know.
totally.
Don't eat the cookie.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. So
Yeah.
I have a question for how this relates to, and maybe this isn't a thing we can talk about, but the ego. Is that what we're talking about? Parts is
Yeah.
ego? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we would say your parts are your ego, right?
Okay. Okay.
That's all of the ego telling you like
Yeah.
who I am or
Yeah.
who I need to be, or
Yeah.
this is how I have to be in the world, or blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah. The
Yeah.
identity, my identity has to be this way, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That's all ego and it's all parts. That's
Okay.
what it is. It's just parts trying to
Awesome.
protect you, right? Because who I have to be in
Yeah.
the world is what keeps me safe.
Yeah.
If I need to be this way, look this way, act this way, think this way, that's all the things that keep me safe and protected.
Right. Right. Right.
And then what's that afraid would happen if it didn't do that?
Right. And so do we need to provide proof that they don't need to be doing it? Or do we just need to build the trust that they trust you to just let you take over? Or is it both?
Well, it's both, and I think we need to be honest with the idea that, like, that it's not that they don't. Okay, say it's something like, because it's kind of both, but I think
Mhm.
the difference is, um, like so your perfectionistic parts,
Mhm.
you wanna say, "I still wanna do things well,
Yeah.
and sometimes maybe perfect, but it's gonna feel different if I do them as a f what did you say you were, 40?
40. I'm gonna be
40,
40.
yeah.
Yeah. Gonna be
Yeah,
40 in the
yeah,
fall.
so you're like, so 40-year-old me wanting to do things really well and maybe do them a little bit perfectly,
Mhm.
that feels really different than the part that says, "I have to do it perfect so people will leave me alone." That is a
Mm.
different energy,
Mhm.
right? So the part of me that wants to be a good girl or wants to be good because it feels good and I like doing that, and that just
Yeah.
like the almost 50-year-old me is like, "That actually feels good, and
Yeah.
there's no burdens there, and I just like being good, and I like being nice, and that feels fine."
Yeah.
That is a very different thing than me,
Um,
this little, 5-year-old me saying like, I've got it, and I feel I've got to be rigidly good
mhm.
because then you're going to like me and then you're going to love me and then you're never going to leave me and then I'm going to live and I'm not going to die. That is a completely different feeling. And so parts, so we can say the
Mhm.
parts, it doesn't mean that we're not going to be perfect, or it doesn't mean that we're not going to be good, or it doesn't mean the way we live in the world
Mhm.
is going to be different, right? I like working. I work a lot. My guess is you work a lot
Yep.
because you have a podcast, right? So
Yeah.
we work a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not going to not work a lot. I'm still
Mhm.
going to work a lot, but it doesn't have to be driven by these parts that are so
Wow.
burdened, right? If I don't work a lot, then what does that mean about me? And what is like
Mhm.
all that stuff? I can
Mhm.
still work a lot. It just doesn't have that burden energy around it.
Wow. So it is really getting in tune with your body and the feelings inside your body to know if you're in self or not. Okay.
Totally, but
So cool.
I think that it really depends on, sometimes people are not super connected to their body,
Mhm.
and so, I think it really depends on you, and as you get to know, I'm more connected to my body now than I was. I
Mhm.
think because a lot of reasons I wasn't connected to my body at all, and a lot of people that have been through trauma were sort of like, right,
Mhm.
you're not connected to your body because it's not safe,
Mhm.
and so the more work you do, I think the more connected to your body you'll be,
Got it.
but often people are either more connected to their bodies
Mhm.
or their heads or their feelings, right?
Mhm.
Sort of one of those 3 centers, you're gonna kind of experience your parts typically in one of those 3 centers the
Wow,
most.
wow, wow, wow. Oh, this is so good. I could talk to you for forever, but we have like 5 minutes left. So I want to
Yeah.
talk about self-sabotage. I mean, some people love that word, some people don't. But is this what's happening? Is that, the self gets an idea and maybe the part doesn't like it. And so we thwart. And here's an example. If you're trying to lose weight and you're eating right and you're working out, but it's not working, is that have you seen that with your clients? Is that just parts kind of canceling out the good work of the other parts, or what are we talking here? Is what can we
Yeah, so I would
Yeah,
say there's a part, so if it's not working, right, so then
yeah,
I would say, okay, there's 2, so that's 2 parts again,
yeah,
polarized parts, right? A part that wants to lose weight
yeah.
and a part that doesn't. And so so I
Ooh,
would say, okay, let's get to know the part that wants to lose weight and let's get to know the part that doesn't.
wow.
I mean, this is like, right, like every time like I'm gonna go on a diet and I'm not gonna have any sugar,
Right.
next thing you know, I'm at the store buying cookies.
Brownies. Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
know.
cannot live without sugar, right? Like, so it's like, okay, well, so I need to get to know those parts. So
Yeah,
the part that's sabotaging me, we think that's the part we need to go towards, right?
yeah,
Why is this part trying to ruin my life? Okay, yes, but we also wanna get to know the part that's it doesn't mean that we don't have to do we can still diet and we can still go to the gym and we can
yeah.
still do
Mm,
that, but can we do that out of a different energy? Like, can sort of a
mm,
that's not gonna have this backlash, right? So
mhm.
can I eat healthier because it feels good? I mean, I try to trick myself. I'm like, "I'm eating healthy because it feels good, and 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 it makes me happy and gives me good energy and clear-minded." My parts are like, "That's
That's
bullshit. You know
BS.
you're trying to lose 5 pounds.
You're
Like, come
trying
on."
to look good for summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Your clothes are tight. Get it together.
We actually have a chat real quick, Tammy. I'm just gonna jump in. I think it's related. Tammy, are there strategies as a parent, yes, that can help us prevent our kids from having to deal with their parts, burden parts, let's say, in the future, or at least mitigate how many hamper them? Yes, I was gonna get to this too. Yes, what can you say to
Yeah,
that,
this is a
Tammy?
great question.
So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I actually just
Thank
talked
you so much.
to, I did a podcast, I haven't released it yet, it probably won't be released for, like, a month or so about
Oh,
parenting,
good. Writing that
and what
down.
she said is that, so I'm gonna answer the question, but what she said is, like, so the idea is that, that we can help our kids not kind of have more parts, right? Like, kinda like, I know my son already has lots of parts,
Yeah.
but I can kind of help him so that they're not, just burdened over and over and over again.
Oh,
And so one way is just to start talking in parts, right? I'm just talking to my kid in parts, right? Like
I love
a
that.
part of me cried in the car yesterday with him, and I'm like, okay, a part of me is just really overwhelmed right now. A part of me feels really tired, and sort of this is what's happening, right? I'm just
Yep.
crying.
Yep.
And then a part of me is like, just ignore me. Let me have a good cry. And he says, oh, I'm ignoring you. And I was like, good, good. Right. So then I could say, okay, a part of you is ignoring me. And I'm really glad because,
Yeah.
like, I'm fine. I just
Yeah.
needed to have a good cry.
Yeah.
Right. But I can start just using that part
Language.
language, right? A part of me is feeling this. And I'm going to talk to my son later because I overheard him having like a conversation, sort of having a hard time navigating social things with his buddies on video game.
Mm.
So we're going to talk about that later. And I'm going to have him talk in part, like, tell me about the parts of you that were involved in that situation tonight with your buddies, right?
Mm.
A part of you that felt mad. I'm guessing, right? A
Yeah.
part of you felt mad, a part of you felt frustrated. Like, let's tell me what parts were happening with you.
Wow.
Is really give him that part language so that he can start thinking of himself in parts. And I
Oh.
have to be careful because he'll tell me not to be a therapist. But I'm like, but I'm also being your mom. So this is mom talking to you.
Oh, but it's so
Yeah.
fascinating when it comes to the kiddos, because just having that awareness that there are parts of you, and just asking them to really look at that instead of thinking that it's just one big tornado of randomness in there and it's all you and what the hell's real, and oh my goodness.
I mean,
Wow.
that's beautiful because it really does help us not feel like a tornado, right?
Yeah.
It really helps us feel like I'm not a tornado. And then also, even when we think about relating to my kid, right?
Mm.
Like my part, like sometimes I'd say, like, he triggers like this 13-year-old in me, right? Where
Oh,
I'm just get like bratty and I'm like, "Ah,"
right?
right. And then I act like a 13-year-old, right? And then he acts, like a 20, he's 12 and he can act like a 20-year-old. Like he can act like, and I'm like, I'm the adult, right? And then me saying, like, I'm the adult, I'm like 13, I'm the adult.
Oh
And
my
he's like,
gosh.
okay, mom, get it
Doesn't
together.
it just bring
You know,
out all the
so
parts, the parenting? Oh my god, all of them.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah, parenting brings out a lot of trailheads, lots of trailheads and triggers just sort of to help us know our systems,
wow.
right? It just really does. And yeah, it's definitely a fun ride.
It's a fun ride. But like you said, there's a positive to, okay, you blew up at your kid yesterday, like, apologize, and then self-dialogue. What
Yeah,
what happened? Why are you
yeah,
arguing with your 2-year-old? What's
right.
going on there? Because they're 2, so it's not them really. Really not. No
It
shame
is
though.
2-year-olds. Oh my gosh. Right, right. But yeah, right. It's so funny. Like, you find yourself saying and doing things, and you're like, really?
Yeah.
Like, Yeah,
right?
ridiculous.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and I think we just have to offer those parts compassion, right? Because they're
that's key.
triggering younger parts of us,
That's key.
and we have to offer those parts compassion that are just trying to parent, and parenting is a hard job,
Yeah.
and we parent the way we parent, from parts because of how we were I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
it can be really complicated, and so can I look at my parts and how my parts react to his parts and how
Yeah.
his parts react to my parts?
Yeah.
Because when I'm more self-led, then he's going to be more self-led,
Wow.
right?
Wow. Wow.
A part-to-part relationship or a part-to-part conversation, or when I come from a calmer place, he calms down quick, right?
It's so
He is,
quick.
yeah,
It's so
yeah.
quick.
He really follows and mirrors me. And so, right, when I'm acting crazy,
Yeah. Why are you kids doing this to me? No, mom, get it together. It's so fascinating watching them just like regulate when you just,
they
okay.
do.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Even tiny, tiny babies, like my daughter, when she was first born, I was like, when I'm crazy, she's crazy. So just, whew, she's
Well, they teach
fine.
us that as moms, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like if we're upset or whatever, we're not even supposed to really even hold the baby, right? When we're calm and they're like
Oh,
sort of right, like skin on skin, and
yeah.
our nervous systems really
Hmm.
just calm down together.
Oh, it's
And that's
beautiful.
same thing. Same thing is when they're 12.
Wow. 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 You are just a bright light. I adore you. I think you're fabulous. And I want to tell people where to find you so they can go on your website, tammysollenberger.com. And you have a beautiful book that we didn't even get to, but this whole stuff we've been talking about is in the book. It's the work. So the one inside, 30 Days to Your Authentic Self. And you can get this book anywhere, right, Tammy? Yeah.
Yep, you
Yeah.
can get
Yeah.
on Amazon, it's at Barnes& and Noble.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a part that was like, I just wanna be able to find it in my local Barnes& and Noble, and then I'll be happy. Like, that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted to happen,
Yeah.
and it's at my Barnes& and Noble, and every once in a while, my son and I will be like, "Let's go to Barnes& and Noble," and I'm like, "Okay," and I'll go
Okay.
visit my book.
Oh, I love that. And your beautiful book has a quote from Gabby Bernstein. So I don't know if people watching know who she is, but that's a phenomenal thumbs up to you, girl, because
I
that's a pretty
know,
big person saying yes to you.
I
And
know.
not that
She's
I'm
an
not
IFS
hers, but
lover.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she's an IFS lover and has been super supportive and just, yeah, has been great to me, so, yeah, and
Wow.
Dick also has been
Dick is
a
yeah.
friend and awesome to me, so am just so
I'm
grateful
nerding
to
out.
both of them.
I'm nerding out right there because I'm a big fan of Mr. Schwartz. And so I'm like, Dick is your friend. This is amazing.
Well, I mean, like,
Amazing.
I think he's my friend, but I don't
Sure
know
he
if he
is.
thinks he's I'm
Sure.
like, "He's my friend.
He's your
We're
friend.
friends."
We're friends. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, I hope and your podcast, it's phenomenal too. So you can follow Tammy everywhere, you guys. So just get on our website and check her out and keep doing what you're doing, girl. It's friggin' awesome. So thank you so
Thanks.
much for being on the
This was a
show.
fun conversation. I appreciate you having
Super
me.
my pleasure. It's all mine. So ciao, Bella.
Thanks.
She was awesome, right? Oh, okay. So we're gonna do our official goodbye, and Tammy's can either leave or wait in the wings and nerd out with me. She's a mama, so I get it. But if you found this interesting at all, like go down the rabbit hole. And it's a glorious rabbit hole. It's sparkly, it's gross, it's wonderful, it's it's all the feelings. But as I've learned through this journey, it really helps me reconnect to my voice, the things that I put up to block myself from doing the things I actually want to be doing with my voice instead of what you think you should be doing with your voice. It's brought more love to that relationship for me. And as you saw today, there's still more work I could be doing with that perfectionistic side that is there, and the one that wants people to leave me alone. Yeah, I get it. It's never ending work, but it's rewarding work. And if it makes you use your voice, sorry, encourages you to use your voice more in this world, hell yeah, I'm on board. So you can find out more about us at voxsana.co, our website. We're on Facebook as well and YouTube at voxsana.co. And yeah, we're switching over to a podcast as well. We're going to keep the podcast going, but have a podcast version. So you can find that on our website. I'll pop it back up there. And until next time, I almost said keep fit and have fun. That was a commercial in my hometown. We're not going to do that, but you can do that. Until next time, stay well and use that voice as much as you can and just explore. Okay. Ciao.